What are teens today not ready to hear? As you get older, you just keep realizing how dumb you were last year. Every day I realize how stupid I was the day before. I actually like this because it means I'm always improving. The older you get, the faster it goes. Yesterday I was you. Tomorrow you'll be me. One day you'll wake up and wonder where that plenty of time to do X went. It will scare the crap out of you. Pink Floyd said it was perfect. Tired of lying in the sunshine, staying home to watch the rain. You are young and life is long, and there is time to kill today. And then one day, you find 10 years have got behind you. No one told you when to run. You missed the starting gun. Things will likely take significantly longer to achieve than you think. And getting good at stuff will take time. Sometimes lots of time. And sometimes you'll spend lots of time on something and you still won't get good at it. That's the human experience. Some things you struggle with will come very easily to others, but some things they struggle with will come very easily to you. Don't be mad that someone possesses skills you don't, and don't be a jerk for possessing skills that many other people don't. Also, life is not like a video game where you just keep leveling up. Sometimes what you built will fall apart, and you will have to repeatedly do the same thing over and over. You thought you learned a new useful skill? Guess what? That technology is outdated. You have to once again learn something new. Thought you became physically fit and active? Well, COVID-19 lockdowns hit and you have gained some pounds. Thought you resolved some issues with your family and are on good terms? Well, new issues have popped up. However, don't beat yourself up about it. This is normal, and with experience you will also become more adept at facing and resolving problems, so each time the same problem repeats, you will be better at solving them. In the adult world, getting into fights doesn't make you look cool, it just makes you look stupid. And one wrong fight can leave your brain damaged or on trial for manslaughter. Putting every aspect of yourself online is unsafe. Nobody needs to know your lists of triggers or your address or your blood type. Some Twitter bios are long enough to be in a Star Wars intro. That's how I'm reading them from now on, with John Williams' score in the background. Maybe I could find one of those sites that generates the title crawl for you with your input. Just because it's new to you doesn't mean it's new. I majored in literature in college. I teach now, and I remember 18 to 20-year-old me being fascinated by how human nature stayed the same from hundreds of years ago. At that age, I couldn't fathom that those old people actually made sex jokes or had certain technologies. Reading across the ages really made me wiser and hip to the fact that humans are basically all the same. We just have different settings that we grow up in. The same thing across the country and cultural lines. I remember when I traveled to India and the culture shock was super jarring. Felt like I had teleported to a different universe. Then, when we were driving around Agra, I saw a group of teenage boys cracking up and pointing. Those people had drawn the most glorious, veiniest peen that I had ever seen on the wall in chalk. Doesn't matter if you live in India, Germany, Egypt, or the USA. Everyone draws and laughs at peens. The great unifier. Being controversial isn't the same as being interesting. Contrarianism isn't wisdom. Those are probably not friends for life. Okay, slim chances for some. This hits hard. Too hard. I lost contact with most of my school friends by now, and I'm only 30. I'm 21 and only talk to one friend I had in high school still. One day, you too will be old and uncool, and it'll happen faster than you think. I used to be with it. Then they changed what it was. And what it is now is weird and scary. It'll happen to you. Abe Simpson, more or less. So I tied an onion to my belt, which was the style at the time. Now to take the ferry cost a nickel, and in those days nickels had pictures of bumblebees on them. Give me 5 bees for a quarter, you'd say. Now where were we? Oh yeah, the important thing was that I had an onion on my belt, which was the style at the time. They didn't have white onions because of the war. The only thing you could get was those big yellow ones. You're closer to being the older person in any given setting than you think. And by old, I mean like 30. Got nieces and nephews? Just starting kindergarten? Ha! Blink and they're starting college. Agreed. We're having my mother's memorial this coming weekend, and it keeps striking me as bizarre that we are now adults. We went from 15 to 45 in the blink of an eye, it seems. Same. My dad passed a few weeks ago, and we just had his memorial. Seeing his friends and people he worked with that I haven't seen in 30 years just hit me in the face, and how old I am now. Playing music on your speakers in public areas makes you look like a complete douchebag. Nobody likes it but you. The same applies to watching YouTube or TikTok in public spaces. Just get headphones. Also, no one wants to listen to your FaceTime call. Not everybody can be an internet sensation. Somebody has to drive the dump truck. And sanitation is a pretty solid business too. Yeah, don't believe the guidance counselor saying that you have to go to college and then saying something like, "You don't want to be a garbage man or plumber, do you?" The garbage man and the plumber make bank with no student loan debt. Social media is not reality, and your entire life should not revolve around it. I know some adults that need to hear this too. It is perfectly fine to not know something. It's okay to not know. Stop shaming and bullying people because you learned about something before they did. Social media is not the real world, and acting like it is will only make people not want to be around you. We adults are mostly just winging it, hopefully learning from the tons of mistakes that we make, but still winging it. I have no idea where I read it, but I once read a lady talking about her childhood, and she said something like, "I didn't realize when I was little that I was witnessing my parents grow up. It stuck with me both as a parent and as a daughter. In hindsight, the best thing I did as a parent was waiting until well into my 30s to have a kid. I think it's a good idea for people to sort their own lives out before bringing new ones into the world." You didn't invent that style. My high school-age daughter and her entire school look just like my high school did in the mid-90s. They are even listening to the same music. A girl walked past me today in colored baggy mid-high-rise jeans, and I was like, 1993? Is that you? Please shower. Back in my day, you got roasted for being the stinky one. Yeah, teens don't police each other in that way anymore. For the most part, probably a good thing, but in the instance of hygiene, hygiene is for everyone's benefit. To the ones who ride the public bus in my city, specifically, nobody else wants to hear whatever TikTok you're watching. Buy some headphones. My dad's a teenager? Anything less than 80% is not worth listening to. Everything you do as a teenager will be cringe to your children. Everything I did as a teenager is cringe to me. I, a teenager, cringe at myself as I do things. Today's eyebrows are yesterday's clown makeup and tomorrow's regret fodder. Today's eyebrows are laminated. That's so 2010. I know women who've had their eyebrows lasered off and replacements tattooed on. School has a system in place to keep you from falling behind. Life doesn't. Yup, life will run you over if you frick around. And even if you have your crap together, you could be one financial crisis away from losing it all. For sure. Been run over so many times at this point, I've proposed to the asphalt, but still no response. Stop self-diagnosing yourselves with mental illnesses. As a therapist, I second this comment. TikTok is not a valid source of diagnosis. It's just young people without a solid sense of who they are yet, clinging to anything they can. I fully expect they'll grow out of it. Just because you screwed up does not mean you're a screw-up. Building on this, everybody screws up royally at some point. A sign that you're in the right environment, whether that's personally or professionally, will be people forgiving and working with you to get better. The price of rent and housing that they will have to deal with in a few years. My kids are 13 and 15. We live in an old farmhouse, 3,700 square feet. Hope I get that right, 350 square meters. And that's just our living area on the left wing. I try to tell them that back in the day, they had several generations living together. Even if they don't want to live with us, we could build a place for them on the other wing. Think about how much money they would save. I get independence, I had crappy parents, so I moved out at 16. But we're doing all right. Why would they spend all that money just to have their own place? Anyway, would be a treat to have them around even when they grow up. I get how some won't understand, lol. I lived with my parents until I was 21 or 22. I think I'm lucky because I felt like I had freedom and respected boundaries while still saving money. But yeah, I don't ever regret it. More time with family, didn't stress about money, and still lived a full young adult life. You know nothing, and it's okay. You won't feel different when you're older or have kids. You'll just be you. It's weird. Life as a continued experience is weird. When I was much younger, I would always think about all the ways I'd be different when I was older. But I'm still just me. Somewhat wiser and taller, but still the same me I've always been. It's strange, but I think I've enjoyed getting older and growing to know myself better. I might as well be teenage me in a grown-up suit pretending like I'm an adult. That's what it feels like sometimes. Early successes at this stage in your life won't necessarily give you an advantage later, but early failures will likely hold you back significantly. Basically, getting straight A's in high school will leave you closer to the mean than failing a number of classes. To add to this, please, for the love of all that is good in the world, do not get caught up in the legal system or get in trouble with the law. If you're in the US, having a criminal record absolutely will ruin your life, especially if it's a felony. Stay away from drugs, don't drink until you're old enough, and stop doing stupid crap. Focus on schoolwork and hobbies. I know it sounds cliche and even a little bit lame, but take it from someone who prioritized partying at your age and is now struggling to find work because nobody hires felons. I wish I could go back and stay away from that crowd. I'll add to this. Even if you're a good kid, if you hang out with people that are getting into trouble, you will get into trouble as a side effect. An example would be, if you're with friends and they like to fight at some point, the people your friends are fighting with will come after you. Cops just see everyone was fighting and now you have a record. That heartache you're going through, it consumes everything now, but it will be nothing but a footnote in the future. You'll rarely think about it later, and when you do, it won't hurt you. It's hard to hear that your pain isn't the worst in the world when you're feeling it, but it does help to know that it won't mean as much as it does in that moment. As a 35-year-old, I can say this: your social life in high school is meaningless. Do you suck? It doesn't matter. You're popular? Doesn't matter. You will meet new people anyway. You will be 20 and still an empty sheet of paper. Heck, you can start over with 30, probably with 40 and 50 again, and every age in between. It's literally over as soon as you graduate. Nobody will ever care who you were or what you did in high school. Literally nobody. You're not mature for your age. Anyone who says that to justify wanting to be with you is a creep. I would go ahead and say being mature for your age generally, not just being told that to creep on a child. It's actually a bad thing for a kid. Yep, it's often a result of necessity. Abusive or neglectful parents, trauma, and lots of bad things tend to force you to grow up too soon. You need to learn the difference between normal teenage neuroses and mental illness. Neurotypical older teen here, completely agree. People romanticize mental illness and chalk every response they have to a problem up to mental illness. Do you guys know how the attractive and wealthy kids at school seem to just get life handed to them on a silver platter? Get used to it. Justice is not doled out as you want it to. Comeuppance doesn't always come to crap people. In fact, if you're willing to be a cutthroat D-bag, you'll probably make a lot of money. All you need to do is worry about being good. Be good with yourself, try to help others, but now you can't change them or the world at large. That doesn't mean you don't try. I yelled at my mom when she told me to let something go and that it would come back around eventually. Karma is bullcrap. There is no afterlife. The only chance for justice is here and now, because some dude cut in line at Disney. Maybe I was a bit over the top. Maybe. 10 years from now, no one will care about how many viewers you had on TikTok. Also, those 10 years are not a long time. It's tomorrow. Seriously though, it may be the millennial in me, but 2012 feels like last week despite having gone through college, 2 jobs, getting married, and having a child in that time span. It's not your duty to judge others. Just take care of your own crap. Also related, there is a unique emotional reality for each human being in the world. Don't think yours is the only one that matters. And don't let anyone treat you like theirs is the only one that matters. Someone somewhere cares about you deeply and loves to see you be happy. This crap is so true. I told one of my friends that I finally felt like I was at peace with life, and she told me that's something she wanted to hear from me, and that she was proud. There are decades when nothing happens, and there are weeks when decades happen. Social media will give you too much of a superiority complex, and hanging around people who enable you will screw you up later in life. Their children will blame their generation for all their problems. In short, you are the boomers of tomorrow. The boomers destroyed a lot of stuff protecting those who came in after them, all for an economic policy that didn't do what it was intended to do. They're most likely not going to be the one, unless his name is Neo. In 15 years, you're going to think the kids have gone too far, and they're going to think you're old-fashioned. Jobs aren't meant to always be fun or your dream. Sometimes you have to work a job you hate to stay afloat. Likewise, turning a hobby into your job isn't always the best thing. It's often a terrible idea because it makes you hate your hobby. Your metabolism won't last forever. Practice and develop healthy exercise and diet habits now before it gets harder and with more consequences later. I'm just about to turn 30 in a couple of weeks. I am 100 pounds heavier than I was in high school. To be fair, I was super tall and skinny to the point of being slightly underweight, and that's after losing 25 pounds since the start of July. I have high blood pressure and elevated cholesterol. I am a father of a 2-year-old that doesn't want to die in the 40 to 60 range. I also want to live as a good example to her. Another 35 pounds and I'll reevaluate what my body type is like and reset my goals from there. That would be 240 pounds, which I was about 4 years ago, but it would also be a more muscular, trimmed 240. I'll determine where in the 210 to 240 range I want to end up and what my body and lifestyle will be like. Running is still hard, but using an elliptical is easier on the knees than it was 25 pounds ago. I want to eventually be able to do the Broad Street Run, 10 miles through Philadelphia, even though I hate running. If my knees don't like it, I'll do something else as an equivalent. As an added bonus, my sex drive I think is improving, but nowhere near what it was when I was in the 220 to 250 range. I don't think it's 100% related, but maybe it's more than 50%. I told a 20-something-year-old this because he was complaining about some weight gain recently. He was blown away. High school won't last forever. Thank God. Yep, I remember being a freshman and thinking, God, I can't wait till this is over. Not everyone needs to go to college. High school is probably the easiest thing you'll do. In addition, not everyone needs to go to college right after high school. Take some time off, join the workforce, travel, party, build a social group, figure out who you are, and then go to college. It will always be there, but you're only young once. And if you go with a bit of life experience under your belt, you'll probably have a better idea of what you want from it. As a teen just entering uni, this is exactly what I told my dad, and he insisted I go straight to uni. So might not just be teens that need to hear it. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Cut back on the sugary crap now. Take care of your teeth now. Start working out now. You don't have to be a bodybuilder and look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Just be active. Now is the time to get out and do a bunch of crazy crap, but at the same time, remember that whatever you do now, you pay for 20 years later somehow, some way. And this can be taken in a good way or a bad way. Don't want to take care of your teeth now? Have fun dropping $30,000 on your teeth like I had to. Not exercising or eating right? Have fun with that quadruple bypass that my father just had. My girlfriend's parents are older than my parents, but because they do those things, they haven't had nearly as many hospital visits as my parents have. By comparison, my parents are falling apart and they're only in their 50s. My girlfriend's parents are in their 70s and objectively are healthier. The big difference? Early in the morning, every morning, those two are downstairs working out, hitting the weights and machines for a solid hour or two. Do you want to speed and act like a damn fool on the road? Have fun when you have to pay your own insurance and nobody wants to insure you drive a Honda Civic for no less than $350 like me. Even my car. It was my dream car, and it still is the car I would be driving today if I had just taken care of the goddamn thing, but no, it started leaking oil and I didn't keep up with it or take it in. And now I have to drive a goddamn Civic, when I used to drive a Lexus. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. You're not supposed to create a safe space to isolate yourself from everything that triggers you. You're supposed to expose yourself in controlled ways so you can improve your coping skills. Yep, often avoidance and isolation can actually make your anxiety around that trigger worse because you're exposing yourself more to your own thoughts and detaching from reality. You're not as important as you think you are. But also, plenty of people do notice when you are not at your best, and some of them do remember. The whole no one is thinking about you or looking at you bit isn't universal. The world doesn't care about your feelings as much as you do. On the positive side, no one remembers that embarrassing moment that is burned into your memory. Everything in your life right now is a trial run. High school is meant to teach you how to learn, how to communicate, and how to deal with other people. That's it. High school doesn't last forever, and it doesn't really mean anything. You most likely won't marry whoever you're dating right now, and that's okay. Most romantic relationships you have will probably fail because you are young, and you are both learning how to communicate, and figuring out what you want or need in a relationship. Enjoy this time of awkward growth. It's the last time you'll be able to be a kid, and not have to worry about adult issues. Unless you're unlucky and were dealt a crap hand in life, be humble, patient, and kind. I'm rooting for you. I don't know how to explain it, but that backhanded thing they do where they use sarcasm disguised as a compliment is bullying. I really have no idea how to explain exactly what I'm talking about. I especially see it online and mostly on apps like TikTok. It's almost always aimed at someone who looks or acts weird. I think a lot of teens don't see it as bullying because it's not very obvious. My younger sister started doing it, but at the same time, she's the type to advocate for victims of bullying. Pissed her off when I told her that she is a bully. Is it comments that seem supportive like, OMG, what a skinny legend / absolute unit, we could never, but it turns out that they were trying to shame them for being thin or fat? You're probably not going to get to play video games for a living. Social media isn't real. I feel sad for the people who grew up after Facebook existed. You are allowed to make mistakes. The consequences of nicotine will catch up one day. Every time I see a teenager vaping, I consider becoming a respiratory doctor slightly more. Wear earplugs at concerts. Seriously, loud music is great, but so is being able to hear when you're 30. Adults know exactly what you're going through. Just because it's the first time you've felt something doesn't mean you're the first. Also, we aren't making you do things because we get off on your plight. We actually want you to feel happy and satisfied all the time if that means we get some quiet time. But always getting your way can make others around you worse off, and it can make you grow up to be a bad adult. Parenting is a 24-hour job. You being forced to spend a few hours away from your friends will gain you no sympathy. You are probably never going to be able to retire, yet the older generation doesn't understand why and blames it on lack of knowledge. Social media and messaging are not a substitute for in-person socialization. You are all grossly under-socialized, and it's going to negatively affect your development and social skills for the rest of your life. I'm well aware. It's okay to be ignorant of something. Being ignorant is acceptable. Stop putting others down and bullying them because you discovered something before they did. People won't want to be around you if you behave like social media is the real world, because it isn't. Happiness is a skill. Some never learn it. This is very true. Happiness is an internal thing. All the noise of the world is constantly telling us, you can't be happy unless you have, insert some goal or product here, that many spend their whole lives chasing what they were told to chase and not being happy. They are not the main character in anyone's story apart from their own. It's normal to be anxious, and feeling a small amount of anxiety is healthy. It means you care. Spending your whole life avoiding anxiety is avoiding all the things which make life worthwhile. You aren't oppressed. You aren't disadvantaged. You probably aren't mentally ill. Your problems are laughably small in the grand scheme of history. You live in the most privileged and prosperous time in human history. Yes, even if you are from a so-called disadvantaged group, you are still more privileged than most would have been a century ago. There's an overwhelmingly good chance that whatever problems you think you have would be dwarfed by those of your grandparents' generation. Many problems of today's youth wouldn't even have registered as a problem mere decades ago. Many of today's teens couldn't function properly in the world a mere 30 years ago with how soft they are. If you really want to be happy, start learning to find gratitude and gratefulness in what you have. Count your blessings. I'm sick of hearing how awful teenagers think they have it. If high school is too hard for you, then God help you when you're out in the real world and can't have mommy and daddy fix all of your problems for you. Literally every generation has crapped on the younger ones with how hard it was when I was growing up. We've heard it quite frequently, thanks. You're exactly the same as every other generation since teenagers were invented. Putting up videos of yourself dancing on TikTok will be humiliating in the next few years. It's all fun now, but wait until maturity kicks in. Dating anyone older than 18 is not a good choice. I understand that not everyone likes dating someone their age, but being under 18, it's best to date someone your age than to date someone older. Don't believe older men who say, "You're so mature for your age," as justification to date. Thanks for watching until the end. If you have some advice for teenagers, leave it in the comment section below. Then be sure to press that like button and push the notification bell to be notified whenever we upload a new video. But for now, please subscribe and stop by the channel to check out another amazing video.